Okay, now I'll be presenting some of my work that I've been a part of for the past few years. So this is an entirely different study. This one is called Provident, also a clinical trial in Rhode Island in the United States. And it's kind of based around the idea that overdose risk within any given neighborhood may vary over time. We think of the overdose crisis as a reflection of sort of a combination of both structural factors that are pretty chronic, but also more acute risk due to volatility in the drug supply or disruptions to local harm reduction service provision. And so to inform the rapid delivery of harm reduction resources to specific communities where they are needed most, our team developed and validated a machine learning model to predict neighborhood level rates of drug overdose deaths. So this Provident model can consistently predict the top 20% of neighborhoods that will contain at least 40% of statewide overdose deaths in the next 6 months. We updated these model predictions roughly every 6 months, and so for each of these prediction periods, we have each neighborhood designated by the model as being at either high risk of overdose or not at a high risk of overdose. We then took these predictions and put them into an interactive online dashboard that our community organizations in the state use for their harm reduction allocation and planning. So you can see kind of a screenshot of that tool here. And for each of those 6-month periods, each neighborhood is just shaded as high risk or not high risk, and then would be updated 6 months later. And so with these series of predictions over several prediction periods, we were able to implement techniques of sequence analysis, which is a descriptive approach that allows us to characterize neighborhood level patterns in predicted overdose risk. So for each prediction period, we classified each neighborhood according to its model prediction. So again, either high risk or not high risk. And then we were able to construct a unique trajectory of predicted overdose risk over time, over each of the prediction periods. We then kind of used a clustering algorithm to group the trajectories to trajectories that were similar to them, with some neighborhoods belonging to groupings that were always at high risk or never at high risk or changed over time. These trajectory groups followed a racialized socioeconomic gradient, so neighborhoods that were in groups defined by more consistent designations as high risk had fewer white residents and poorer socioeconomic circumstances than the groups that were never designated as high risk. And so using this approach, we see that a majority of neighborhoods in the state were consistent in their predicted risk designations over time, whether they were always at high risk or never at high risk. And so we've revised a version of our interactive tool now that this study has ended and our model isn't updating every 6 months anymore, where community organizations can go and look at maps like this that have some more detailed shading about how neighborhoods have changed over time. And so we can use, it's probably hard to say, so I'll just point it out. The red is the neighborhoods that were consistently predicted to be at high risk. The orange were ones that were kind of considered to be like emerging hotspots, or sometimes at high risk, and then the unshaded ones are still, were not predicted by the model to ever be at high risk. And so we can use machine learning predictions like this one to continue to inform overdose prevention resource allocation, and particularly to identify these neighborhoods shaded in orange that might be emerging hotspots of overdose risk. Thank you.